Oh, Canada, our home and native land. That's all I know from Oh Canada. One of the most beautiful anthems I have ever heard. I love listening to it before the beginning of every hockey game that I can. And of course, my thoughts and prayers and hopes and dreams and all that great stuff go out to the Canadian people, to the tragedy that they suffered this week. That what's amazing to me, for those of you who don't know, there was a corporal who was guarding the National War Museum, if I remember correctly, up there, very close to the parliamentary doors. He was killed. The attacker made his way inside, where he was killed by the sergeant at arms. There was another gentleman that was killed, I believe, unrelated to the incident. Okay, listen, people. Let me just let you in a little thing. Okay, I'm not CNN. I don't watch the news. It's just the shit I've seen on Facebook and the few articles I've read. But what's interesting to me is how Canada reacted to the death of these two soldiers and how America reacts to the death of, a few hundred to a few thousand people. Like, I'll be honest, as an American, when I first saw it and heard it, I was like, it's two people. What's the big deal? Because I'm just used to that, right? It's like 9/11, 3,000 people died? How many people have died in war? Right? How many people probably died today? Hell, Texas has 2,500 people die a year on the roads, which I'm not a mathematician, but I think 3 times 4 is 12, so that's 8 people a day. So when I was like, what's the big deal, Canada? Like, it's 2 people. Like, dry your eyes. It's just 2 people. And that's crazy to think about how desensitized we've come as a nation to death. It's just like, it was only 2 people. It's not that big of a deal. But it was resounding to see the support and the outpouring and the, and again, I don't watch a ton of news and politics. That's not my thing. But like the level-headedness, that's the only way I can describe it. Like the level-headedness of the people that I saw. One story I saw was there was a mosque that was vandalized and told them, leave Canada, get out of here, go home. I'm sure by just the smartest individuals in Canada, right? Just the brightest, the Rhodes Scholars of Canada were like, what would really send a message to these people instead of tolerance and education is let's spray paint their mosque and tell them to go home. I'm sure that's worked. Never. So anyway, so they do this, these fucking retarded idiots do this, and the town comes together, they repaint the mosque, and they're like, hey, you are home. We don't want you to leave. Like, don't take, Jethro Jones over there as the national symbol of Canada. So my heart and prayers and thoughts go out to all of those affected, whether directly or indirectly. I know anytime that I see a big tragedy like that, I'm always taken back to 9/11 and where I was and the thoughts and stuff going through my head. So, well done, Canada, as far as your response and your level-headedness. I think a lot of countries could learn from that. And wow, what a great uplifting segue, right? Well, if that depressed you, one, I apologize, but two, I want to talk about a couple different topics today. All right. And when I was writing out the podcast outline, which by the way, this week is only a headline, I have this: taxes, death, and HoneyHoney. So let's just start at the top. Let's talk about taxes. Here's the thing, right? I am black and white when it comes to taxes. I know there are a lot of people out there that brag about how little they pay in taxes and this corporate loophole and stuff like that. See, here's the reason I don't do that. Because, there's always, they say, well, there's only like a 1 in 400,000 person chance that you'll be the guy. Well, I'm usually the one, right? I'm the guy on the other side of the fence. Two, the thought of going to pound me in the ass federal prison does not necessarily appeal to me. As I watched the end of Boardwalk Empire last night, and they took old Al Capone away in handcuffs, that guy was a gangster, a legitimate killer running a multi-million, maybe even billion-dollar, if you adjust for inflation, industry. And how did they catch that motherfucker? They caught him on tax evasion, and he spent the rest of his life in prison. So why am I telling you this? Well, the one thing I want to tell you is, and this was a big mistake I made at the beginning. See, I didn't think my business was going to be much of anything at the beginning, so I went cheap and I filed a little DBA, right, and I was a sole proprietor. Well, the IRS loves sole proprietors because they get to stick it to you for every dollar they can. Well, then I thought, well, I'll be really smart and I'll incorporate it as an LLC. So I did that. Well, it turns out the IRS likes sticking it to you too. So I actually did an LLC. I believe it's an S corp. All right, and before I go any further, let me restate the disclaimer again that I am a fucking idiot when it comes to anything and everything, and my recommendation to you would be to talk to a tax professional in your city, state, and find out your local laws. Well, when I did that, okay, and it was just a declaration I made, it severely reduced my tax liability and my taxes. All right, so I went from paying 25 or 30 grand in taxes down to roughly about half that by just doing the LLC with an S corporation. So why am I telling you all this stuff? The first thing I would tell you is you need to make sure that you're set up for business. I know it may not seem like a big deal, but the second that you start making real money, and by real money I mean if you're going to crack six figures, I definitely recommend that you get yourself incorporated and you make yourself legally protected and reduce your tax liability as much as possible legally, okay? Legally. There is no gray area with me. It's black and white, and if it's on my side or their side, they get it. Okay? Because I don't want to go to where you drop the soap every night. That just doesn't sound like a fun experience for me. So I did all this, and my normal, mom and pop delivery shop of taxes, tax preparation, screwed everything up. It's a long story, but basically they filed some paperwork, didn't keep a record of it, didn't keep a copy of it, that left me on the lurch for about $14,000 in additional taxes, unless I found this paperwork. So I contacted my buddy Corey over at Evolved Finance. I said, Corey, here's the deal. About to have a heart attack, about to feel really stressed out, need some help here. What does this guy do? This guy spends 40 plus minutes on the IRS website and phone trying to get this thing done. Not only does he do that, he takes me to his income tax preparation people, all right, and they get me done within 24 hours to avoid a ridiculous penalty that I shouldn't have had to pay or stress about in the meantime. Long story short, I paid my taxes, right, cut my check to the government, said thank you very much, God bless the USA, here's a little extra to keep me out of prison. And I made a critical decision in my business, which was Corey at Evolve Finance is going to be the only guy that's getting my money. So here's the deal. If you are making over six figures, you need to make sure that you're talking to someone, get yourself protected. When you start making really good money, and I'm going to classify as really good money as $200,000 plus a year, okay, that's gross sales, not net. All right, I highly, 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 highly recommend you go talk to Corey at Evolved Finance. He is the guy that understands internet marketing, the guy that is, he's extremely helpful, he's reliable, he's never let me down, he makes sure I get every deduction, okay, every single deduction that I'm entitled to legally, okay, he's above the board 100%, and if you need someone to do your taxes, to do all your incorporation, to do all that stuff, he can help you. And the best part is, he charges a flat rate. So there's no surprise billing. There's no anything. I know what it's going to cost me a month. He knows what it's going to cost me a month, and I don't have to stress about it. So I highly recommend it. And I'll also say this. I don't get anything, right? Corey doesn't give me a kickback or any money for sending you to him, all right? This is out of the I don't want to say the kindness of my heart, but I mean, the guy does good work. I want him to be busy. He's extremely talented. He's extremely skilled. He knows what he's doing. He has a specialization in internet marketing. So I highly, highly recommend if you're looking for a tax guy, or more importantly, you're looking for an accountant and someone to help you with your business, go check out Corey at Evolve Finance. He will set you right. Just type in Evolve Finance into Google. You'll find it. So taxes done. Death we'll get to in a minute. Let's talk about ye old HoneyHoney. For those of you who are longtime listeners to the podcast, first of all, thanks, Mom. Second of all, you guys know that I love me some HoneyHoney. Well, this week was just a little orgasm of HoneyHoney, buddy. It definitely was. Let me tell you what happened. So, HoneyHoney is on a little tour on the Midwest. They went to Colorado, they've gone to Louisiana, Dallas, all this great stuff. They were going to play last week in Dallas. And I said, you know what, I've been to Dallas a million times. haven't been to Colorado in like probably 2 years. Let's go to Colorado. So me and my buddy Chase, we jump in the jet. And by jet, I mean Southwest, right? And we fly up there and we have a great time. I got to hang out with my buddy Justin and Neil. Got to hang out with them on Thursday before the concert. They treated us to some fun, exciting opportunities and excavations. No, we didn't dig anything. We did some cool shit up there. We hung out, we had a good time, and there you go. Then, Friday night before the concert, I got to hang out with Bo Blackwell, the former badass of CEO, soon to be the badass of internet marketing, and that was a really fun and engaging conversation, and we got to really just hang and chill, and what I liked about that whole trip was how chill it was. So, Friday night, it's HoneyHoney time. We got our tickets in advance, and then we went to the show. Because that's what you do, right? You buy tickets and you go to the show. Tim, the people get it. Let's move on. All right. So we go to this place. I call it the Lamar Lounge. I'm terribly mispronouncing it. But basically, imagine like 3 car garage, times 2. Like, just imagine the smallest space ever. That's how I would say it. Like a prison cell plus 1. It wasn't that small, but it was tiny. Well, they packed this place out for the show, right? They packed this place out, and the band knows I'm coming because I've, texted them a million times and Facebooked them and been like, hey, I'm coming, right? Do I need to bring a lock of hair or anything? So we show up. It's sold out. The show's done. Then I get to talk with the band. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me give you a little backstory. I found out about this band through the Joe Rogan Experience and the Joe Rogan Podcast, which if you got 5 hours to kill, I highly recommend you check out. They did a Kickstarter campaign for their album. I paid a couple $100 to go backstage and fall in love with these guys. They were just awesome and amazing, and we had fun, and we drank a whole bottle of Jameson and almost got kicked out of the venue for various activities, which we can't speak about due to statutes of limitations. But long story short, we had a great time. And then I showed up in Colorado, and I'm like, man, I'd love to duplicate and replicate that experience with those guys, but it's really tough. Like, the more I get to hang around bands, the more I realize, it's just a crazy existence. They're in towns for like a night, okay? Everybody wants to party and hang with them and show them a good time and impress them and, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is this and this and, everyone's like trying to be their best friend. And because of that, they have to keep their guard up, right? Because they're like, I don't know if this guy's like really wants to help me or roofie me and wear my skin for Halloween. Like, I just don't know what it is that this guy wants. So we show up in Colorado, okay? Side note. There are going to be a lot of side notes because obviously I don't have an outline for tonight. If you do want to get on a band's good side, find a way to help and support their project. So like I've supported the Kickstarters. I bought handwritten lyrics. If these guys were like, hey, we have, I don't know, used drumsticks on sale, I'd be like, I want some, so try to support their causes and try and be visible in doing that and help them out. Just generally help them. And just be like, hey, I'm here to help, anything I can do. Always good to show up with their favorite alcohol and various other party favors as well. So there you go. So Colorado happens, have a great time. Got to talk to both of them. They were really cool. Like Suzanne Santos, who is the lead singer, who has one of the most beautiful and powerful voices I ever heard. We got to chat and catch up. And also Ben Jaffe, who's their guitarist and also has a badass set of pipes on him. We got to sit down and chat and talk and just reconnect. And that was great because I hadn't seen those guys in about 2 years. So then here's what happens. Then the week starts off this past week. And I'm getting ready, going through the motions, everything like that. And my wonderful and talented assistant, Paula, is out on the West Coast because they are adopting a beautiful baby boy. Well, she wakes up Wednesday. I'm like, hey, Paula, what's on the agenda? She's like, well, the birth mom is giving birth today, so she's being induced at the hospital, so nothing for me. And I was like, well, if you're taking a day off, then I'm taking a day off. So then I decided to drive down 6 hours one way to see HoneyHoney in concert again. Without telling them, I just show up, I buy a ticket, because I buy a ticket to all their shows, and they rocked the night away. It was a great set and all that stuff. What's hilarious is during the show, Ben is really good about this stuff, connecting with the audience, so he looks out while he's playing guitar and stuff like that. So he's playing guitar And he's looking, and he scans right by me, and then he stops and he does a double take, and he goes back, and he's like squinting his eyes. And I'm wearing a baseball cap, and I lift it up, and I tip my cap to him, and he just laughs. Because he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he actually goes over and nudges Suzanne. I don't know if he told her about it or not, but he was talking. And anyway, they do another great show, have another meet and greet. I wait till the very, very end, and they're just shocked and crazy. That I'm there, and they can't believe twice in 2 weeks, and who's this guy that just keeps fucking going to shows that are like on the opposite sides of the earth? How does that ever happen? Type thing. And we get to hang, and this time they're like, hey, do you want to come backstage? And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I want to come backstage. And they got to see they did some interviews and did some cool stuff, and then they had to go. So what is the point of this whole long conversation and story? So I want to talk to you a little bit about the dynamic of the relationship, because that's changed, in my opinion, as I've changed over the last 3 or 4 years. So the initial friendship, interaction, whatever, was purely financial. Okay, these guys needed money. They were like, hey, we'll whore ourselves out, $250. You get to come hang with us, take a photo at the end, all that good stuff. So I do that, okay? I show up, right? I bring them some fun in a bag, right? In a jar. We have some good times together. We just enjoy ourselves, and it's a really cool thing. But it's very hard, thinking back, right, to kind of, I don't want to say crack that inner circle, because I'm not even close, but like I said, it's hard for bands to know, like, is this guy genuine? Is this person genuine? What do they want from me? Surely they just can't be friends with me. There's no way that this guy just likes us so much that he wants to spend all his money on us and do all this great stuff. So, okay, so then I show up in Denver, and they remembered me. And they remember my buddy Chase, because he went with me to the first thing. And we just had a great time, and we got to reconnect, and it was just an amazing show. Well, between the first time I saw them and the last time, right, like, I've been privately trying to help them. And I've been giving them suggestions and ideas and advice, and this is what you guys need to do, and blah, and zing, and za, and all that shit, thinking that I had to be the one to help them out, not to rescue them, but to better them, because of just how I get my self-worth as a human being. All right, now we're entering the therapy sessions with Tim Castleman, right? I get my value from helping others. That's why I like to teach others, because when they do good, I feel like I'm worth a shit as a human being. So here's what's fun. Like, I've been trying to help. I'm like, hey, here's how you do Teespring. Here's how we can build your email list. And they take none of that advice. None of it. Absolutely none of it, or very, very little of it. I think they've taken some of my email shit, but, whatever. And it's just frustrating as fuck, because you're like, motherfucker, I have the golden ticket. I have the road. I have what you need to do to be successful. Just follow me. Follow me, and I will make you successful. We will make you successful together. Right? So I see them when they're opening for Trampled by Turtles and Jake Bugg and Ryan Bingham. This is my 5th or 6th show. Anyway, so we see all that stuff. That's great. Here's the crazy thing. They were opening for other bands, and when I see them in Denver, they're headlining, and the show is sold out. I mean, there's wall-to-wall bodies. The first 3 rows knows their songs, right? Their merchandise sales were not. I mean, these guys just fucking slayed it. And they did it without me at all. And this is the lesson I learned from that. And it applies to a lot of areas of my life that I'm working on right now. But, like, it just occurred to me, like, first and foremost, they're okay. Right? They're okay. They're doing just fine. Neither one of them looked to be malnourished. Okay? They were both in good spirits. They didn't travel on a bicycle to get to the show. So they're okay. That's step 1. Step 2 is, like, there are going to be different paths for everyone to the level of success that they want and what they want to do in life and business. Maybe the marketing shit that I had to tell them, they just weren't into it. Maybe it just wasn't them. Maybe they didn't agree to it. Maybe, who knows? For whatever reason, they ignored my advice, and you know what? It's okay, because they're finding their own path to success. And strangely, that was liberating for me, because I felt like, okay, I don't have to be their protector or their rescuer or their provider. Even though I was never any of those things, I just kind of took on that role myself, They weren't like, hey, we need you to do all this stuff. I was just like, I like this band. I want to help this band. I want to do everything I can to, I want to be a part of the band. Let's get matching chest tattoos. It'd be great. So I get to relax, and I got to just enjoy the show, and I got to just be friendly with them, and I got to be, dare I say, friends with them. And the key, by the way, if you want to become friends with somebody, very rarely does it start like, hi, I'm Tim, hi, I'm Sean, now we're BFFs forever. It's a period of time, multiple interactions, you get closer and closer. I had a great time in Denver, right? I went to Dallas, and all I could think about Dallas was, I'm really going to fuck this up because I had a great time in Denver. There's no way that we could hang out like we did in Denver in Dallas because they're touring the next day. They got, there were a bunch of things going on, which is another little side hook on the therapy sessions here today, right? Is have realistic expectations. It's not that these guys don't want to hang out with you. It's not that people don't want to contact you. Like I get like 150 emails a day, some days, most days, right? I can't read them and respond to them all. I would love to, I just can't. I don't have the ability, the capacity, the desire. So don't think about it like that person doesn't want to hang out with you, whatever. Just understand, ask yourself this, is it a realistic expectation for you to have? And when I looked at it, it was like, no, it's not realistic for these guys to be able to hang out with me and me alone over the 150 other people that came to see them or hang around after the show to get merchandise. It's not realistic. And by developing a realistic expectation, okay, and also realizing that I didn't have to impress and I didn't have to, be like, hey, I'm of worth, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. Like that really freed me up and allowed me to really enjoy and kind of connect with those guys on a level that I haven't before. Now, we're not vacationing together, all right? We're not best friends forever, but we are in semi-frequent contact, as I am with a lot of bands that I enjoy, and I'm grateful for the time, and I'm grateful for anything that they have to give to the relationship, just like they're grateful for me. You see, at the end of it, they were like, stop buying tickets to our damn show. Text us, we'll put you on the list, you'll get in. And I'm like, no, like, I want to buy. And they're like, Tim, like, you're good. You've already helped us enough. We want you to just come and enjoy the show, not feel obligated to buy tickets. And I think a lot of us have false expectations or unrealistic expectations like I did when it comes to different things we do in life. And I'll tell you, as I've spent pretty much the last 2 years doing my therapy thing, like here's some stuff that I've really learned, okay? One is to take the other side into equation, right? The other side into equation. So let me give you an example. Old Tim would be like, fuck those guys. Why can't they hang out with me? Don't they like me? Don't they, I'm sure ego comes in. Don't they know who I am? Why don't they blah, 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 blah. That's old Tim, right? New Tim is, you know what? There's their 23rd day of the tour. They look exhausted. They probably partied other nights before. There's 400 people here. There's 100 people in the line to meet them. They can't all have that amazing one-on-one experience that every one of those fans desires, right? So, one, being able to look at it from the other person's perspective, but two, being able to have a realistic expectation. And by the way, this applies to all areas of life, and I'll share why here in just a moment. Okay? And then the third thing is, and this is something that I've just discovered recently, is like, I feel like people want to be friends with me based on the value that I create for them or what they can get from me. Right? It's like there's no way somebody would want to be friends with me just because I have a humongous penis, I'm ridiculously good looking. Right? There's just no way that would be enough. I've got to impress them. I've got to wow them. Think back to the HoneyHoney thing, right? Think about it like this, okay? I paid $250 to hang out with them. Then I went out and got a bottle of Jameson so we could drink it. Now, part of that was cool, and it kind of separates you from the pack, and it does that stuff. But really, it was kind of like, I really want these people to like me. What can I do? Well, they like this alcohol. Well, that, if I buy it for them, then they'll really like me. They'll like me even more than, so I gave them money and alcohol. Wow, that's awesome. Right? I did that for years in dating. Right? It's like, well, if I just buy this girl roses and flowers and I take her to a really nice restaurant, she'll like me. She'll like me. If I spend money on her, she'll like me. Right? I'm doing all this stuff to impress you. Won't you please like me? Won't you please love me? Won't you please tell that I matter? And if you find yourself in that situation, as I did myself, right, it takes a lot of work. And I don't have the answers for it. This is something I'm still working on. But it's weird to me that I get to hang out with these people, okay? Even my everyday friends, I get to hang out with these people, and I don't have to freak out or think about, like, what's the deal here? Why are they still friends with me? They can't just like me for me. Surely they can't just like me because I'm funny and whatever. Like, there's got to be a reason why they're friends with me. And part of that may be the business, because a lot of people that I considered friends weren't really friends when I got into this business. They were people who wanted something from me, right? They wanted something from me, so we were friendly. Totally different, friend and friendly, right? As I've painfully learned. So that's what I'm working on right now, is like, I can just be myself, and it doesn't mean everyone's going to like me or accept me, and that's okay. There's a long list of people that want to run me over, I'm sure, and that list will get added to, the older I get. But it's okay for me to just be myself and just not feel like I have to constantly interject value into someone's life for them to like me. And the other thing I'm working on is the whole understanding there's different ways for different people. So let me share another struggle with you, just because, basically this is just therapy, right? That's just basically what it is. So there are a lot of people right now that are out there puffing their chest about how they're Kindle bestsellers. All right? And I'll tell you exactly how they do it. So they put together a book of like 20 people or themselves. It's an interview file. Okay, they go out, they put it up on Amazon, they have 20 people buy it at the same time, so for that hour, they can be a bestseller. They screenshot it really quickly so they can have that one screenshot to use for the rest of their lives about Amazon, and then they just abandon the book. Well, no, they don't abandon the book. They go to Facebook, right, and they post it, and they're like, hey, like, hey, I'm a Amazon best-selling author in this category, which you may never have heard of. And a few of them, by the way, are in decently well-known categories, okay? So they beat their chest, and they puff their chest, and they go. Then you wake up, you log on to Facebook, you see that person X, Guru X, is a bestseller. You go, you click on their book, and you're like, wait a second, and this book's like 20,000. You click on it the next day, and like by day 4, they're up to like 400,000 on Amazon. To me personally, that's the biggest piece of shit ever. It just is. I get it. Yes. Technically, for a nanosecond, you are an Amazon best-selling author. Right? With a shitty interview you did with a guy that was probably transcribed that you and your grandmother bought at 3:30 in the morning so you could get your screenshot. Like, yeah, you did it. Congrats. You hacked the system. But as a consumer and someone that's willing to spend money with these people, I look at that and I go, well, if that's how you hack that, what else do you do? What else of your business is built on a house of cards? Right? What else is just a hack that if you look behind the curtain, you go, wait a second, this shit ain't true. Now, here's the thing, right? I have 2 books on Amazon right now, the Creativity Checklist and the 2KH Formula. And as of this recording, they're both still bestsellers, and they have been for several months. 1, 2 months, 1 month. Okay? But here's the lesson I'm learning about this. Because I'm always learning about myself, right? It doesn't matter. What I mean by that is it matters to me. It matters to me because of my filter and who I am and who I want to be, right? And what's important to me. And I'm more of an artist. I like to create beautiful things and put it out there and do well more than just money. So that matters to me. But people that are money focused or people that are just like accomplishment focused, they just, that works for them. And ultimately, it's not about just me. It's also got to be about the market. See, it doesn't matter if people, it doesn't matter what I do if people agree with the end result. So in the Millionaire Fast Lane, right, it's described as process versus result. Is that right? Process versus result? I think it is. If it's not, I'm going to say it is. So the result is you're a New York Times bestseller. Now, here's how I did it. I wrote a book. I emailed my list. I got them to buy. They left testimonials. Amazon continues to sell to this day with no list involvement and make it a bestseller. That's important to me. I became a bestseller day one. I've been a bestseller for 60 days. I've made, 5 figures now with those 2 books. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's important to me. Other person does an interview, they become a bestseller for a nanosecond, they're gone, it's forgotten, bam, move on. Here's the thing. If all you care about is becoming a bestseller, either one of those processes is going to work. And because either one of those is going to work, they have to make a decision. Do they want to do my route or do they want to do their route? Now, where I need to get better about is going, they want to go their route. Okay, that's fine. I'll let them do that. And maybe they'll be successful, maybe they're not. And if not, I'm still here to share mine. I relate that story to you because that's what I discovered by going to the HoneyHoney concert. See, it's frustrating because they wouldn't take this advice and they wouldn't do this. And surely if they did this, they'd be way more successful and make more money and be headlining a show and selling out a show in Denver. Or they can do their process. They can date their label for a while. They can find the right people. They can sign a record deal. They can go to Denver, sell out shows, have a great concert, and go from there. Both get the same results, but they went on their path instead of the one that I would have chosen for them. And that's okay. How many times have you tried to help people and you're like, well, I just don't understand why they don't get it? Well, they don't get it because they don't see it through your filter or your lens. Or they don't get it because they don't see the result that you want. Or they don't want to do it that way. And you have to be okay with that. Or that will eat you alive from the inside like it still does to me to this degree. Like when I see that stuff on Facebook, I just cringe. And I want to type out a huge long report of why they're fucking idiots and hacking the system and blah, blah, blah. But then I have to remind myself, like, one, as my good friend Robert Stooks says, I can't hack the internet, right? Or I can't police the internet. I'm not the police person. And 2, if it gets the end result that they're after, who am I to say that their way is wrong or my way is better than theirs? So it's been an interesting week, right, to kind of discover that stuff. On top of that, I know we're getting long here, but I'll finish this. We talk about death. So my father-in-law went into the hospital this past week with pneumonia, which is awesome, right? Because at 70 years old, that's what you want to do. And, you can't help but visit a hospital and start to think a little bit of your own mortality. Then I went and saw this movie this weekend. I think it's called St. Lawrence. It's the one with Bill Murray and I can't remember the chick's name. She's in The Heat and Identity Theft. You're screaming out the name of the podcast. I hear you. I'm sorry. I'm functionally retarded. Anyway, it's a really good movie, but this guy has a stroke and has all these issues that pop up and all stuff. And, you can't help but understand that we are living a finite life. One of the bands that I follow had a member of the family commit suicide, 25 years old on his birthday. Done. Like, we're just not promised tomorrow. And even as I say that, I'm like, yeah, it's for everyone else, but not me. But, I mean, it's true. Like, I could die tomorrow. That's pretty crazy. So part of this whole discovery, or process, if you will, is I started thinking about some things I'd like to do if I only had a year left to live. Now, I know that sounds pretty morbid, but if you really want to get fucking focused in your life, figuring out what you want to do with if you said, hey, look, I only have a year to live, what are the things I want to do with my life? I guarantee you the best and brightest ideas would come to you as far as the priorities you need to make. And one of those things that I wanted to do was kind of work on, if you will, my relationship with my biological father. Now, there's a huge, long backstory involving, Trail of Tears and hours of dialogue. But here's the abbreviated version. Parents had me. Parents got divorced. Lived with dad. Dad lost job. Sent me to live with mom. Turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Dad went to live with his parents. I moved states. Okay. I join the military. I get married. Dad comes to the wedding as a surprise. I have a surprise for him at the wedding that he doesn't like. We fall out of contact for multiple years. I think, 10 plus years. 2 years ago on my birthday, I get a friend request from a guy who has the same name and turns out to be my biological father. Over the last 2 years, we've spoken twice. That did not work for me. So when I started having this whole, hey, I've only got a year left to live, I reached out to him and basically said, hey, let's talk. And what are we doing? What's going on? What's X? What's Y? What's Z? And we have slowly begun that process of communication, and to a degree, maybe some reconciliation. That's the long-term plan. That's the long-term goal. And without getting too heavy and too deep into it, because I know this has already been a tremendously uplifting podcast, right? Like, there have been points in my life where I have felt rejected by my father. And in some ways abandoned by that. And those have led to rejection and abandonment issues for my entire life, with my friendships, with my business partners especially, with anyone and everyone. So the old Tim, right, would work with Ben. Let's just say Ben Atkins, right? Good friend of mine. So we'd work together, okay, and I'd support him, he'd support me, then I'd support his launch, and I'd go to him, and I'd say, hey, Ben, I got this launch, I need you to support me. And he'd be like, oh, man, I can't because of XYZ reason. And I'd be like, that piece of shit, he's not supporting me, he's abandoning me, he's stepping away from me, and because he stepped away from me, then I have to step away from him, and to protect myself, I have to end this relationship right now. Well, as you can imagine, that is not the formula for success that one would think it is, to make joint venture partners, or to make friends, or to be generally considered a nice guy. Now, I will be honest with you, okay? I've been doing therapy for about 2 years now. I legitimately didn't understand this about myself 48 months ago. Okay, so back when I first got started, I was part of Practical Profits. I took it personally. I thought they were personally rejecting me. I didn't realize, Tim, maybe they just have their own agenda today, or maybe they've got this going on, or maybe X or Y or Z. I wasn't able or capable to look through their eyes at the situation. Sound familiar with the HoneyHoney thing, right? I didn't have a realistic expectation because of that. And when they did something I thought was crazy, right, because it's not how I would do it, then of course I was like, well, why'd you do it like that? You're a fucking idiot. You should have done it my way. And as you can see, that doesn't obviously endear yourself to a lot of friends. So in a lot of ways, as I've spent more time thinking about this than I ever have in my life, with my dad, I feel like him and I were on a very similar path, one that was pretty much self-focused and self-centered, but not to the degree that he did it maliciously, or that he didn't, or he did it for any reason. He probably just didn't understand. And I only say that because I know that's how it was for me. Like, people used to tell me, dude, you're an asshole and you're a jerk. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm the life of the party and we're having fun and having a great time. And I don't get it. What do you mean that I'm a jerk and I'm this and I'm that and I'm, you know what I mean? It just didn't make sense to me. Not because I wasn't, but because I just wasn't aware. So I've been working on that, and I've been trying to take the other person into consideration. I've been trying to, look at their path. And the biggest thing is I've been trying to accept it, because truthfully, I don't know where anything's going to end up. I don't know, Me and my biological father may have a great relationship in a couple of years. Or in 6 months, we may decide, we don't like each other, and we may not speak. And the thing I have to do is be open to that, to understand that, and to ensure, right? To ensure that even though it's not the path I would want to choose, if that's the path he decides to take, I have to be okay with it in as far as accepting it's his path. I don't have to be okay as far as accepting it into my life, but it's like, hey, if you want that for your life, I'll accept that, but I don't want it into mine, and then go from there. So one thing I would consider or have you consider doing is sit down and ask yourself that question. If I only had a year left to live, if I only had a year left to live, what are some things I'd want to work on? Maybe you'll write that book that you've always wanted to. Maybe you'll reconnect, or you'll deepen those relationships with the people that mean the most to you. Or maybe you'll get a better understanding of this crazy thing called life and how you can interact better with people, to make friends, to deeper connection, and to accept people will love you for you. Not everybody, and that's okay. You're not meant for everybody. You're meant for just the people you're meant for. And to understand that you have worth and value beyond what you bring to the table. That you don't always have to impress people. That you don't always have to be the guy that saves and rescues people. That sometimes you can just be. And I know that's tough. All right? For those of you who struggle with that, I know that's tough because it's tough for me. You know, I can logically tell you all of the badass things that I've accomplished in my life. But emotionally, I still don't feel like they're worth a hill of beans. Right? I mean, it's like I didn't go to college. I went in the military. And then I took that money and I went to college, right? And then I started a business while I was in college. Then I've worked for every major corporation, nonprofit, all of that stuff. Paid off my house when I was 31. Built up a six-figure savings, right? Wrote a best-selling book twice. Sold over $1 million in products online. I'm 34 years old. If I doubled that, and you know, I mean, it's just crazy. Today I paid my truck off with the earnings from my Kindle. I was just like, I don't like this. Here we go. But I can say all that stuff logically, but emotionally I'm still like, I got to provide value. I still got to provide value. I got to prove my worth to myself and to others. Because if I don't, then there's a problem. So spend some time this week. Think about your own life and situation, or don't. You know why? Because I'm just here to share my experience and my journey. And if it resonates with you, that's fucking awesome. And I'm here to help in any way that I can by sharing my journey with you, and you can follow along. If not, and you want to take your own path, I respect and understand that too. Of course, I'm biased thinking that my path is the right path and all that great stuff. But if it's not for you, I respect that too, and I wish you well, and I hope whatever it is that you're trying to work on, work out, improve, whatever it is, that you find it. So with that, I'm going to end this week's therapy session. Thanks so much for listening to me. You know, a lot of times, especially this one, I'm doing it literally as I walk out of the counseling office for this week. So I know a lot of this stuff is, you know, therapeutic for me. My hope and goal in sharing it with you is a few things. One, you understand that despite the fact that you would like to think contrary, a lot of people do, I am just human with plenty of flaws and warts, okay? And in some levels, I'm just a horrible person, all right? And I'm still working on that. But two, to help understand that it's okay to work on yourself, and it's okay to improve yourself. I work on myself just as much, if not more, as I do my business, because I've got to be comfortable and happy with the skin that I'm in. And I will tell you, as someone that put it off for years, like if you're noticing patterns, if you're noticing habits, if you're noticing relationships always end one way or the other, or X or Y or Z, it might do you some good to spend some time talking to someone, seeing if there's a pattern or a reason behind it. Because it will probably be something that can potentially change your life. It will not happen overnight. It will not always be easy. I will promise you there will be plenty of tears and nights when you think, oh, this really sucks. But I can also promise you a level of clarity and understanding, the likes of which you are radically missing in your life. And that is my biggest fear for my dad, because I'm sure, much like me, he is oblivious to the reason why certain things have happened in his life as I was with mine. But one of my greatest comforts is knowing is that no matter what, I will end up surrounded by the people that love and admire me, and I will build healthy relationships with people, and I will not repeat the mistakes of my past and my predecessors. And that, my friends, is priceless. So that's it. I will see you on another edition of the Two Drink Tim podcast. I'll try to funny the next one up for us, so we don't have to go back to Suicide Watch Tuesdays. Be well. Talk to you soon.